So this is where I'm going today. So hello, everyone. I am John Willinsky, and I'm going to speak to you about the Open Monograph Press today. I'm a little new to the system, so I'll be a little rusty, and I'm not sure. Yeah, this is going to be a bit of a challenge. Let me just do a little bit of introduction. I'm a professor of education, and I've been working on the Public Knowledge Project for just about 25 years. I'm very struck that it's called the Public Knowledge Project PKP, because the only more famous PKP than us is the Polish National Railway. And so we have a great connection right there, not just my last name, but PKP. So that should be very familiar to you, but in our case, it stands for Making Knowledge Public. And for 25 years, we have been developing publishing platforms, software, open source software, which means that it's freely distributed, which means that it's open to people making changes, translating it, and otherwise creating plugins, for example. And today I'm here to talk to you about one of our software platforms, and that is Open Monograph Press, OMP. I want to take you inside the software and show you how it works and what it means to have a platform for publishing books. I like to think of it as a publishing house in a box, but there's no box. So it's a publishing house in a package of software that you download and you can install locally in a web server, whether in association with a university or a scholarly society or just personally. The software is easily installed, and we have a hosting service if you want us to manage it. I'll introduce that a little later. But what I want to introduce you to now at this point are the resources that I'm going to take you through. I'm going to introduce you to OMP through a test drive. And this test drive is available to everyone, and you can come in afterwards and get inside and act as an editor, go through all of the roles that I'll be showing you. So that's one very important resource. The test drive we're going into is this. It looks like this. This is the website for OMP. The test drive has disadvantages. It's being used all the time by people to test drive. So if you imagine a car that people are taking out every day for a test run, it's not in the best shape. Not everything works as it should. Gets a few bumps and scrapes. But it is a really good instance of how the system works and a good instance for you to understand everything that it provides. If you're thinking about setting your press and your publishing activities in an online environment that's managed entirely through the web. I'd also want to introduce you to the support we have for the system before I take you in. We have a documentation hub called PKP Docs, and this is where we provide extensive support for all our software. I should say that Open Journal Systems, it was mentioned in a previous talk, this is really our showcase or our most widely used software. It's Open Journal Systems, and there are 34,000 journals around the world using it. It is the most widely used platform in the world, and it's free, so that may explain why, but it's making a very important contribution to open access. OMP, Open Monograph Press, is not used by tens of thousands. It's used by hundreds of presses, much, much smaller. It's much more recent. OJS started in 2002, and OMP came on about 2015. We also have OPS, which is preprints, Open Preprint Systems, an older version of OJS, and the Open Conference System, which we no longer maintain. So we provide all of this documentation. Everything I described to you today will be, in fact, in far more detail provided for you. The editorial interface will show you screenshots. It has videos. So we have support for this. You don't have to learn everything from my very brief presentation. We also have a community forum, another link I've provided for you, where discussions are going on all the time about open monograph press, software support. And as you can see, there are multiple threads on OMP. And so your questions can be raised here, and they're largely answered by other users. It's a community forum. We don't have enough people to provide all of the answers all of the time. So these resources are part of it. One more I would show you is our publishing services. So everything I present today is freely available and can be downloaded to your computer or your web server of your institution. But you also have the option of hosting with us. That is, we host the software, we upgrade it, we do customization for you, and you pay us an annual fee. And Open Monograph Press is a part of our hosting services, but it's we have hundreds of journals, not thousands, hosting with us. So we use the hosting service to subsidize the free software. So let me take you in to this press. This is not a press, this is our test run. So it's everyone's contributions are from here and there. And you'll see that all of the books are just demonstrations, they're not actual books. So this is something like the home page. There is a catalog, announcements. We have about the press. And these are pretty predictable areas of any given press. But we have things like spotlights that allow you to feature a book on the home page. We have a cataloging aspect where you can show a catalog of your works. And here's an example of the first book in the catalog. Each book has its own page. The books are available in multiple formats. This one has an ebook for $34 and a free PDF. That's one model of cross-subsidizing it. And we have PDF ebooks, HTML, other print on demand, Amazon listings. All of those are options within the system. We give you a record about downloads. These are, of course, this is very limited. It's not a real book, or it is probably a real book, but it's not a real website. This is just a test drive. But other features, you'll notice that ISBN numbers are issued for ebooks and for paperback. This one has a paperback, as well as a free PDF. You'll see on the right that the catalog has series, so you can decide on categories. These are fairly standard features in cataloging, but they're all managed through this one piece of software. And they give you the flexibility to have multiple people involved remotely. The whole press is operating in the cloud or on the web. And that gives you the advantage of being able to distribute your resources, to have everything in one place, to control who has access to what. I'll show you a little bit more about that. So the catalog is an important feature of book publishing. The announcements, I don't know if there are any announcements in this one. Yeah, a book has been published. No, but you can control those things. You have a chance to describe the press, to have the submissions, introduce your editorial team, a privacy statement. The submissions includes, and I'll take you a little bit through this, checklists for authors, guidelines for authors, copyright notices, all those sorts of things. But let me take you into the press. Let me get you inside of the website, because this is a publishing platform. That is, you're seeing the publication, you're seeing the front office, or you're seeing the storefront for OMP right now. But where you will be doing most of your work, if you're an editor or a publisher, is inside the press. And I'm logged in, as you will be as an administrator, admin, and I have a dashboard, I have a profile, I can administer the site, and I can log out, obviously. When you install OJS, what you are doing is installing a platform that can have many iterations. In other words, one installation. So OJS, did I say that? I'm sorry. It's OMP. OMP, Open Monograph Press, once you install it, you can have multiple presses. So, I mean, conceivably, Poland could have one installation, and have 100 presses coming off it, each in its own form. And that's part of the administration of the software. It enables that iteration aspect. But where we want to go is to the dashboard, where the editors do their work. So I'm coming in at this point as an editor, press editor, and I'm seeing a dashboard where all of the submissions are available. I have 27 in my queue, which is a lot, that have yet to assign an editor. I have unassigned 3 that have yet to have an editor assigned. These have been assigned to me, I guess, the 27. I have 35 submissions that are active, and I have 21 in the archives that have already been published or potentially have been rejected. What I'd like to do is take you through each of these categories on the side. On the left-hand side, you'll see where you have, as part of your dashboard, multiple control aspects. Each of these is like a mini dashboard. You can control the catalog, the announcements, you can control the press, the website for the press, the workflow for the press, the distribution of materials for the press, and the users and roles. I'm going to start with the submissions right now. There are statistics available. They're for the monographs and for editorial activity and for users and reports. I'll take you through that. And then these tools and administration are really for running all of the presses in this installation. So that's, perhaps we won't get to that part. So under submissions, this is where you're most active. You'll see that they are all listed by title, and I'll look at an active one here. Let's see. Yes. And so they tell you what stage they're in. You can view them, obviously. You can search. You can filter by overdue and incomplete, what stage they're in. So we have all of those kind of standard dashboard features. But let me take you into one and show you what a manuscript looks like. This indicates that there's been a review and there's been a discussion. And this is in the production stage, which is why I'm taking you there, because it's gone through many of the stages. This manuscript is in the production stage, and we have 5 stages, as you can see. It starts with a submission. This is what the author has uploaded, 2 submission files, a book manuscript and a book manuscript. And again, this is a test site, so these are not the right titles. In fact, the language is looks like Spanish, and we are people are testing out the site. We have pre-review discussions. This could be with the author, checking on whether everything's complete. The participants are, in this case, the author and the administrator, but you can assign additional people. As you can assign a publisher, you can assign a series editor. So you can get various people, a volume editor, a funding coordinator. And I'll talk about these later, but these are all categories that you create. So each manuscript has its own workspace, its own dedicated space that is available only to those people who are designated as participants. The author has access to this discussion on this page, but doesn't have access, for example, to the internal review and the external review. They do have access to copy editing. They can be involved in production for your proofreading the galleys, for example. We also have, in addition to the workflow, we have a marketing area where you make decisions about helping for the marketing of the book. These are all relatively standard categories. You can have representatives who are agents for the book, and you can announce the publication date for the book. I should say at this point, and I actually didn't include the link, and I probably should add that to this page. This software is available in Polish. We looked at the translation, about 98%. I think there were 427 words that hadn't yet been translated into Polish. But I wouldn't be able to present it in Polish, so we're not using the Polish version. But the site can be set up in a bilingual Polish-English or Polish, whatever language you prefer. in addition to Polish, could be included in the site. And perhaps if I have time, I'll take you to that aspect. So let's go back to the workflow. We have internal and external review stages. So internal would be with your board, with the editors, to make a decision about whether you're going forward. You can identify the files to be reviewed. You can add reviewers internally. Again, all the forms come up. And you can have all of your internal reviewers lined up, and you can select a reviewer. It tells you, it gives them a rating, not very good rating, I'm afraid, for these internal reviewers. But again, this is not real. And how long it's taken them to do it, or when was the last one they had, excuse me. And so you are able to very easily assign reviewers. There are prepared emails for everything. So the emails to be sent out to the reviewers are prepared in advance. You could modify them before you send them. You could modify the template. I'll show you the templates in a moment. Authors can submit revisions after the internal review. There can be a discussion with the author about those reviews. And you are in a position then as an editor to decide whether you want to accept the decision, accept the manuscript to go to the next stage. Here's what they look like. The choices: you can accept, send to external review, request revisions, decline submission. But in this case, they accepted the submission. There can be a second round of reviews as well. But let me go on. The external review is very similar, except you invite external people. I don't need to take any time on that. It manages things like overdues and reminders. You can send a reminder, you can add a reviewer. And again, you can see the discussion. The copy editing stage, you can invite in a copy editor here. You'll notice the copy editor is only available at this stage. The author is back in the picture because the author can be invited to review the copy editing. And you can see there's a discussion about it, the draft files, and then finally the copy edited version is complete. And again, the advantage here is that you can bring in part-time people for copy editing. You can even get the scholars involved if you want to reduce your costs. One of the design features of OMP is to allow you to have the series editors involved in every stage. So if you have two professors who are very enthusiastic about a book, but you're very short on staff and resources, you can say to them, I will enroll you as copy editors, and you can see this book right through. You can manage the review as a faculty member and editor, as series editor, and you can see it right through. Perhaps production is a trickier point because production is where you're preparing the manuscript for preparing the galleys. So you need to do layout. You need to decide if it's going to be a PDF. You need to decide if it's going to be an EPUB or an HTML book. So there's some technical aspects there that you may be interested in having professional support on. But again, you can invite a layout editor to assist in this process, a production editor to be involved, and of course the author has to be involved because they're proofreading the galleys, as you know. And so the whole process then, this book hasn't been published yet. This whole process enables you to manage and to distribute the management of, for example, you can have series editors involved. You can have additional assistant or associate editors managing these manuscripts. So it allows for a distributed system. And the fact that everything is in one place allows you as the publisher to have oversight, and your staff and collaborators are able to work on individual projects without concern about, for example, a conflict of interest in which an editor is also an author and shouldn't be involved in the review process, as an example. So this whole process will end up with a publication. This one's just been scheduled and hasn't gone yet through. One feature I should point to is that you can publish chapters. So here we see, in this case, we have multiple chapters are prepared to be published. They can be reordered. And this means that they'll be available for downloading as individual works. We have metadata, the publisher ID. This is part of the Onyx system I'll show you in a moment. The book can have a DOI assigned to it, and those can be minted through the system, coming from Crossroad. The publication formats. Before you publish, this book is going in as a doc, two PDF files for the chapters, I guess. Yes, for the 2 chapters. You can have an approval process, so it doesn't get published until the key people have gone through and signed off on the approval. You can have direct sales decision, or open access, or not available at up to a certain point. So a chapter may be held back for some reason. So you have all that flexibility. You can add additional publication formats. Here are some of them that, and these can be added to, but these are some that we've set up so far here: an audio book, a hardback, paperback. These would be print on demand. And so each book can have its own, oops, I can't do that. Each book can have its own, in fact, each chapter, but that might be a little silly, but each book can have its own format for publication, and the author can participate in that process. The catalog entry is an important aspect. These are categories that you set up for your press. The URL, the date published, it could be part of a series, and it could be, it can be the first or second book in the series, I gather. Permissions and disclosure, we also allow you to manage those things, the copyright, the license. As part of that, we recommend CC BY, but that's an option in this case. So that's the process then of the workflow, the marketing, and the publication. Did we look at marketing? Yes, we did. Yes, we did. Sorry. All right, so that's the submissions and that sense of control. The catalog, I've shown you already, but you have control of the catalog entries, features, new releases, the order, spotlights, every aspect that you might have an interest in. You can look at the entry. I think we looked at this one already. So you have control of and you can have your marketing person have control of the whole cataloging process. All of these features, all of these displays can be customized as well. We have designed OMP to be very readily designed using HTML and cascading style sheets, CSS, that is separate from the underlying code, which is in PHP. So this is the bare bones default. And if you look, I've given you access to, in the links I gave you, you'll see there are examples of presses that have done beautiful jobs of customizing and building out their software. And it takes no more than a university student with some HTML skills to build and redesign the press in very interesting ways. So that's an important feature. So let's, announcements I don't need to take you through. Let me show you some of the settings, some of the control you have. So you set up a masthead for your press. And again, you just fill in the information and this is made available. You can establish a contact person, obviously, a series. You can decide on what series you're publishing in with descriptions, who the editors are of those series. You can designate them as active or inactive. And this is an important part of university publishing. The series is a very common way of recruiting manuscripts and having university faculty serve as series editors. Within a series, in addition to a series, excuse me, you can publish under categories. You can have a catalog of categories. And these, again, are all created by you. And these are just examples. And each category can be edited or removed. Of course, you have all that flexibility. So that's the press itself that you're setting up with a masthead, series, and contacts. The website, you have control, some basic control of the typography and the header and the colors. But really, I'm recommending that you invest in getting design work done. and having getting some HTML expertise. Setting up the press, you have options like sidebars and spotlights, featured books. So again, you're able to do some of the design and the appearance of your press. There's actually two setups. That's not a very good idea, but we'll see. There's a style sheet. I don't need to take you through all these things, but different ways of setting up your press. The languages, here you can add additional languages, but you need to do that through the plugins, and I'll show you that in a second. You can have privacy and statements, date and time, lists, all those sorts of things. But this is where it gets interesting. We, as open source software, we use a plugin architecture. That means that plugins can be developed separately from the software. They are listed here, and then they can be turned on. That is enabled. And Dublin Core is an indexing standard that we use, and you don't have a choice because that's going to be the standard. But DOIs, you do have a choice. Are you issuing a DOI? And I recommend it, but are you issuing a DOI? And for each of these plugins, you have the settings for the plugins. You can upgrade to a new plugin if there's a new version available, and we notify you of that. And the settings can be quite complicated, but this is all of the DOI information that you need in order to register and in order to decide that you're going to have DOIs for chapters and monographs, for example. So the plugins really give you that flexibility, and the block plugins are all about design of your website. The Google Analytics plugin is something many people run. Google Scholar Indexing, I very strongly recommend you get it indexed in Google. And again, these are all choices that you make, except where we've decided. Usage and tiny MCE for editing, those are things that are given. So this is quite extensive. Here's the fee payment choices. This one is enabled for manual fee and for PayPal. You can also build your own plugins. If you feel, for example, there's another credit card system that you want to use that isn't PayPal, you can design and build a plugin. We provide instructions on how to do that, or you can hire us to design a plugin. And then it will be, and this is our whole principle, it'll be available to everyone as a plugin. And we only develop things that are open source, so they can be built further out and are available to everyone. But these are already installed and come with the software. Then we actually have, if that wasn't enough, a plugin gallery where you have to install them in the software, but it's very easy to do because we didn't want to overload the software. And so you can approve the password, you can just see funding. In other words, if you want to acknowledge the funding in a standardized way with a Crossroad funders registry or any of the monographs, which is not uncommon, you can do so. Shibboleth for signing in, backup within. So the plugin gallery is really a very strong architectural feature of the software design. Static pages, I don't need to, you can create as many pages as you want in addition to the current website. This one's an about us, so that's relatively minor. The workflow, here, this is for example, the review process. Do you want anonymous reviews? So all of these features are just really giving you the flexibility in design. You do this once, and then you're done, and maybe periodically you review or have a discussion, and maybe you change. We're certainly moving towards open reviews, for example. And so presses may begin with very anonymous author anonymous review, then they might move to a disclosed author, and then finally they might move to an open. So we try to build in those flexibilities. And each time we upgrade the software, so once a year or a little longer, sometimes maybe 18 months, we upgrade the software significantly. We are always patching it, and we're always looking to ensure that security risks are handled with new patches, but the major releases are about every 12 to 18 months. And in those cases, you'll see you'll get new features in the setup. and the workflow rather. You'll be able to add new things. Here we have review forms if you want to add a review form. We have reviewer guidance. This one doesn't have any in place. So we also see there's an important aspect is when you're working in a press is you have additional materials that should be part of every book. Permissions, so publishing agreements for permissions for using copyrighted material. You might have a marketing report you want to keep in the library. So each publication, each submission can have its own library of attachments that are relative. You might have contracts with authors, and that can be attached to each submission. Emails are an important aspect. We have a great number of prepared emails. And I'm assuming these have been translated into Polish, and you can edit them, and you can add new ones. So you can change them. Let's see, what can I change on? Yes, here. And here's the relatively simple version. Let's see, copyright acknowledgement. And it fills in automatically the title and the series or context, series, I guess. So the emails give you that flexibility, the templates rather, so that you are able to, it smooths the process, shall I say. All right, so that's the workflow. Let me look at the distribution with you. Here are the licensing choices that you have to make. The payment models that might be of interest to you. You can change the currency, PayPal. You can you need all this account material in order to have PayPal. You can set up a manual system where they mail it to you or they deposit it to a bank account. All of those possibilities. You can improve the indexing as well. Some of the features are not showing as they should in the test drive. I think probably because people have been playing with it a bit, but there would be options for improving the search indexing. Finally, at this section, let me look at the users and roles. So everyone who participates in terms of the authors is available to you. So you can edit a user, you can log in as a user if they're having problems, you can merge users because they register more than once and remove or disable a user for any reason. You can edit a user, you can give them additional roles. For example, this person's an author, but they can be upgraded to additional roles at any point. So you have control, and this is really this wouldn't be you as publisher, this would be your press manager or one of your administrators. And you can create new roles. So we have designated, not only, we have provided a great number of roles already, and this tells you what stages they can participate in and what they can't participate in. So the author actually is said to be able, should not be able to participate in the external review, and the author should not be able to participate in the internal review. And you can add additional, create new roles at any point for your press that are tailored to your press. You can decide who gets emails. Sometimes you want to get a lot of emails, sometimes you don't. So you can decide on who you are able to communicate with very easily. And you can control access to the site itself. When you first start, you perhaps have no one, they have to be registered to see your site before you launch publicly. Those kinds of controls are pretty standard. All right, let me just finish up and open this up for questions. But before I do that, let me take you through some of the statistics and other aspects here. So we provide statistics on the downloads per monograph. So these are the overall statistics, and these are live. They're updated regularly. You'll see it goes right to November 20th, which is yesterday. 22, not getting a lot of action in this press, but it's not a press, so that's okay. And then you can get the most viewed, and you can see the different formats. For example, HTML is preferred over PDFs for this one. But again, this is just a test press, so you're not really getting valuable information. So that's the monograph and chapters, really. And you can decide the dates as well. Editorial activity is interesting. So you can, at a glance, see where everything is. So we have 27 active submissions, and you can tell what stages they're in. You can do a comparison over, are we doing better or worse than last year or previous years? So there's points of comparisons. You can look at your acceptance rate, all of the different stats, the number of days you're taking, or anyone is taking, and the desk reject, when their books are rejected before even being reviewed, but after the 0% rejection, that's very good, but this is a test press. It's not very good at all. So we have monograph activity, we have editorial activity. You can monitor your users as well, how many people have signed up for notification, how many readers do you have who want to know about new publications. But you can also check your author lists, and you'll probably know your press managers and other things like that. And you can generate statistical reports for periods of time to report out to your board, for example. So, and as I said, these tools and administration are for the person running the website, and will allow them to set up a new press on a single instance. So all told, what we have is, in fact, I could show you a few more, possibly a few more presses to give you a sense of what presses are doing, and then we can open it up to questions. So this is our homepage for Open Monograph. We're just going to a new website, but right now this is our homepage for Open Monograph Press. And the presses that we have listed at this point have access to are here, and I'll just show you a few, the first three, just give you a sense of the different looks that we have. Oops. So this is in Brazil. And my Portuguese was better. Here's the catalog. And you'll recognize that, but these are actual books. And then here in Denmark, Aarhus. And this is an actual press. Here's their catalog. So this is pretty well out of the box compared to this one. Actually, this one's out of the box too, sorry. These are pretty standard. And again, you can see each book has its own. It's available as a PDF. There's a series. There's a copyright. All the information. And then finally, where is this one? Mercia. Maybe that is Chile. Let's just see if we can tell. I don't know where that is. But you've seen they're doing some customization. Spanish. Okay, yeah, Chile. It's in Spanish. They have pricing. They have open access books and books for sale, so they mix it. And they've changed the design of the site, obviously, in some way. All right, so let me stop there and come back. Oh, I haven't turned on my video. I'm sorry. This is me, live, here in New York City, actually, at this point. Are there, Christoph, here, I'm seeing there are some questions.
Yes, I will, yes, so first of all, thank you very much for this elaborate and extensive walkthrough. And yes, we have some questions. I will, I will try to manage them. One was, I think, already answered in the chat, but maybe you could comment a little more. Is there a quick submit plugin?
So let me step back from that, Sebastian, and say that OMP, Open Monograph Press, has a shared common library with OJS and open preprints. So about 70 or 80% of the code is shared. So we have a quick submit plugin for OJS, so therefore we must have one for OMP as well. This shared code means that upgrades to OJS, where we do a lot of work, are shared in OMP. Or if they're not, it's a very easy thing for us to do. So in the community forum, everyone is allowed to make suggestions about new features. And part of that would be to bring quick submit, but I'm pretty sure it is an OMP. I mean, I could have to go back and look. I don't work with OMP every day, so I'm not as familiar. But at the very least, I want to say that we have quick submit in OJS, so we most likely do, and if we don't most likely, then we have. But I think did someone answer in Polish and saying yes?
Yes, the people that implemented OMP in Poland say that
okay.
It's already here. Okay, and the next question, is about the ONIX data format.
So, yeah. So we do. Yes. So this is exactly right. We follow the OAI, that's the Open Access Initiative metadata harvesting protocol for metadata harvesting, which is an XML. So we follow, all our software follows that OAI standard. And we have prepared a crossover to ONIX in OMP. So you're able to, as part of your cataloging, you're able to comply with ONIX categories in XML. Using that standard. So this is a complicated process, but if you're already familiar with it, then you're way ahead in terms of the standards. And it's used very widely from Amazon to most university libraries and certainly most booksellers. Actually, probably more booksellers. The OAI is more libraries, ONIX is more booksellers.
And what about the BITS format? Because as far as I know, it's not implemented out of the box in OMP. And
no, so yes. So we don't. So JATS has been a bit of a challenge for us, and there's something we could use some help on. So the JATS XML. I mean, our goal long term is to have JATS XML as a standard for working with manuscripts. Particularly in the biomedical, but it's becoming a standard across the board. So we have tools for JATS. I don't know the JATS template for BITS, but we have tools for working with JATS, including an editor, an XML editor. But I would say these are very, very beta, very test level. And so you need to have, if you have the skills, then these tools will work for you. If you don't have the skills, you'll find them very frustrating. And we're working to improve them. And we're finding, in particular, automating the markup very challenging with JATS. So that's kind of you're at the cutting edge when you're talking JATS. And we're not quite there yet, but we have some resources and would love contributions. So I would invite you to look at the community forum, the PKP community forum, and to do a search on JATS and JATS templates, and you'll see there's been a lot of discussion. And people are talking about the tools that we have developed, including their inadequacy and their need for more development. And if you join in that conversation, you'll contribute to the impetus or to the drive to get that in place. And you might be able to contribute in some way because there's quite a community with interest in JATS.
Okay, thank you. That's probably something for further discussion because BITS looks, at least for us, quite promising as it comes to importing books to the Library of Science. But well, anyway, the next question is in Polish, but I will translate it to you. So assuming we actually had one OMP installation for all scientific publishers in Poland, would we then have a common database of users, as it's actually the case for multi-journal platforms?
Yes, you will. You'll have a so you'll have an ability to have users in multiple instances. You will have an ability to manage those users across different presses. Whether you will have the ability to have a common pool of reviewers, which would be ideal, is I'm not sure that that's in place. That would be a worthwhile development. We don't have an instance, we don't have enough OMP instances to really have developed that aspect. So if Poland were the first to have a single platform, each press could have its own look and feel, and the database would be common, but it would take some work to create a common pool, for example, of reviewers. But you can have people working across multiple presses.
All right, and so there is also another question, but I think it's the answer depends on what you just said. Would it then be possible to adjust workflow for each publishing house separately?
Yes. Yes. So the press installation is independent in its internal features. So it would have a different look. It could design its own workflow. It could have its own integrity in terms of who has access to what. So it operates independently. That part is very clear. The part that is shared across presses on the same installation, that part I'm not as clear about. And that part has a great potential. And we certainly talked about a common reviewer pool, which is the one thing I think would be great, but I'm not sure we've implemented it yet.
Okay, well, I assume that there is also some privacy and personal data concerns involved, but well, let's move on. There is a question about Crossref plugin.
Yes, we have a DOI Crossref plugin. We have multiple Crossref plugins. We have a plugin for funders from Crossref, and we have a very successful Crossref DOI plugin that allows you to mint DOIs and to have a relationship with Crossref that automates the whole process of data transfer with each DOI.
Okay, thank you. And one more question. Here it is.
Yes. No, it's not just your installation. The spam issue is something. I think there are ways of becoming smarter about what your emails say. So the attachments can trigger the spam. The format of the email can trigger the spam. So it's more a trial and error aspect, because the spam filters are different for everyone's machine, and every institution is running different spam filters. So there's no way for us to get ahead of this. It's very unfortunate because there's no standard for spam filtering. But it seems to affect people differently. And maybe, again, on the community forum, if you raise on the community forum a group within Poland, then there may be strategies that will work within Poland, given the filtering that's commonly used in institutions. The other thing is if you're working in a university setting, you can get in touch with your IT people to ask about how do we avoid this, and what are the standards in Poland, and do we know about ways of preventing these very important emails from going into spam filters.
Okay, thank you. There is somebody commenting on the spam issue in the chat, but the next question is about Google Scholar indexing.
Yes, we have an ongoing relationship with Google Scholar. So I remember when the chapters were not being indexed properly, and we certainly addressed it then, and we would be prepared to address it again. We work, I would say, closely with Anurag Achura to ensure Google Scholar is indexing us. And so this is one area. Spam filters is a far more difficult problem because there's no standards, whereas Google Scholar, we can step in and ensure that happens properly. Google Scholar's helped us with back issues. If you upload older monographs, they're now being indexed properly by their date. And this is one, again, where on the forum, you can raise this issue and bring it to our attention. And if others agree and don't see a ready solution to it, then we can bring it to, we have access to Google Scholar in a way we very much appreciate.
All right, thank you. Well, I don't see any new questions in the chat. I had one myself. You showed the panel for setting the license, but as far as I understood, it's publisher's wide choice. But can you then change it for individual books, the license, or is it fixed?
It is a publisher. It's a site-wide license. You can always make changes, but it would be a little bit complicated. You would have to have an intervention to override the license applying to one individual book. So it's not an easy thing, but there is a decision that you make. Let's see if I can actually do this. Oh, no, I lost my. Let's see if I can test this out. So when you yeah, so it's going to be set automatically. Yeah, I'm afraid that that might take you might have to develop a plugin to have it on a book-by-book basis. So this decision is made for the whole of the press.
Okay. There is someone typing something in the chat, so maybe we'll have some more questions. Proszę Państwa, pozostali prelegenci też, zdaje się, są cały czas z nami, więc jeżeli Państwo mają pytania do wcześniejszych prezentacji, to też można je zadawać. Okay, still something, someone's typing. Okay, we have some discussion about spam and how to handle it.
Okay. That's good.
Czy Państwo jeszcze mają jakieś pytania do profesora Willińskiego? So maybe it's a very general question, but maybe you will have some comment. You mentioned that it's possible to have a even countrywide implementation of OMP, but basing on your experience with the already existing implementations all over the world, is there any particular way you would recommend for for Poland, which is still early adopter, as I would say, of the system?
Yeah, what I would recommend is that you have both the commitment and the expertise to upgrade. This is the key. So you need, it can be installed and your web administrator can walk away and never think about it again, but that would be a disaster. So you need to have an installation, whether it's one for the whole country or whether it's at key universities, where you can count on the systems administrator, the person running the web servers, to upgrade the software. In the course of a year, there might be 6 or so patches that increase the security, that fix small bugs, and then one major upgrade. And so I think the decision would be, because once it's installed, the journals can be the presses can be very independent. So I think you need to, those people who are involved need to feel confident that they have that support. And we're not talking about many hours a year. We're talking about a few hours a year, but they need to be able to call on the administrators of the web server to install patches and to see through the upgrade process. And that to me would be the determining factor for whether it's 1 or 10 or 100, and to be able to offer that to the publishers, scholarly publishers of Poland would be an important aspect.
Okay, I understand. So whichever way we take, we have to take into consideration that software has to be maintained. And
that's right. But but understand that if you install only one, then you only have to upgrade one. Yeah. And all of the presses will be upgraded. But again, if you install one and you have 50 presses, then you need to notify all 50 that you're going through an upgrade process, so there's administration on either side, whether by the individual web server in every institution or by a central one. So it's that commitment.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think we run out of questions. In that case, again, thank you very much for this elaborate presentation. And okay. I think it's not the first time we in Poland want to talk and exchange experience about open access in general and open monograph press in particular. Thank you very much, and well, I hope that we meet again soon.
Yes. Yeah, Christoph, thank you. And thank you everyone who has attended. How many people were able to make it?
Well, we had 140 people, 40 something at the maximum, but now I think because the working day in Poland ends, people are, we have a smaller number of participants now. So yes, but right. I think the interest in Poland is now growing, and it's a matter of time to that open access in books takes up in Poland. Okay, so and we recorded this meeting, so we will try to make it available so that other people can benefit too, if it's possible. So again, thank you very much, and have a good day.
Okay, all right. Goodbye. Good evening to you. Thank you. Bye bye.
Dziękuję Państwu bardzo. Tak jak mówiłem, nagrywamy spotkanie, więc będziemy udostępniali nagranie oraz prezentację, mam nadzieję, również z dzisiejszego spotkania. Dziękuję Państwu bardzo za udział, tym, którzy też dotrwali do końca, za pytania, za dyskusję i mam nadzieję do usłyszenia przy najbliższej okazji. W połowie grudnia planujemy ostatnie z serii webinariów. Ostatnie będzie poświęcone aspektom prawniczym otwartego dostępu do książek, więc serdecznie Państwa zapraszam. Będziemy jeszcze rozsyłali informacje o szczegółach. A teraz dziękuję i do widzenia.